So as we know, the Yankees are having a pretty rough stretch, right? And one of the conundrums that they're in, and it's many, is that the inconsistency of play across the board is pretty obvious, and particularly on the offensive side, it's dreadful right now. And I've been thinking of how did they get to this point? And are there things that they maybe could have done that could have maybe had them in a different position right now, and so on. Well, in hindsight, looking at the way the team is constructed, and then comparing it to just some of the more successful Yankee teams, whether it be in the mid '90s or even the 2009 team that won the World Series, there's a couple of things that I take notice of, and I want to go over them, just in terms of their thinking, their logic in terms of how they built the team and make moves and so on. Now let's get a couple of obvious things out the way. Yes, the trading deadline is coming in less than 2 months. But that said, Brian Cashman generally makes his biggest trades in the offseason and not at the trading deadline. He makes incremental moves, and sometimes he makes several of them, and a lot of them have had significant impact. So I give him credit for that. But any like the blockbuster type trades, they generally, for the most part, happen in the offseason when he lays the groundwork after the season's over. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen this year, and if and it really it's kind of contingent upon them staying under the $210 million threshold for payroll so that they can reset the luxury tax penalty back down to 20%. So, and as far as I know, that's not happening, but I'm not Hal Steinbrenner, so it's not my money. It's their money. So, that said, I just want to go over a couple things that, if you haven't seen my MLB free agent predictions and what the Yankees should do this offseason before the season started, take a look at them, because I kind of break down some of the things and I emphasize a couple of points. And some people thought I was kind of nuts with making certain picks with Yankees and other teams, but one of the picks that I made was Yadier Molina coming to the Yankees, and let me tell you why. Well, I'm gonna one obvious point first. Gary Sanchez is a very, very talented hitter. Okay, his OPS is over 800 for his entire career, and the major league average for catchers is about 740. So he's significantly above the average for catchers for OPS. But you would never know because he's so wildly inconsistent that you would think he's in the 500s, because he goes on these stretches where he's hitting like Babe Ruth, and then he goes on these stretches where he's hitting like Joel Skinner. Like, it's just, and it's so frustrating to see. Plus, he's injury prone, and he's very, very he leaves a lot to be desired on the defensive side for catcher, and that's one reason I wanted Yadier Molina to come here, because I think sometimes the Yankees choose talent over productivity and consistency, and a lot of times it could be detrimental to them, and I think it has. And in this case, yeah, he's got his talent, he's got a better offensive talented ceiling, Sanchez, but Yadier Molina has been one of the best backstops for the last 2 decades in baseball. He's beloved in the game, respected by his teammates. He's one of the best defensive catchers of all time. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame, and I think he would have represented an upgrade in the catching position. Him platooning with maybe Higashioka, it's pretty clear that he's a backup catcher. He's solid, but he's a backup catcher. And I think it would have been a better bang for the buck on the Yankees. Yeah, I like Sanchez, but they could have non-tendered him, saved $6-7 million bucks, and then gave that money to Molina. I think he might be making 9, so it would have only been a difference of $2 million, and I think the Yankees would have been in a better spot right now. That's one of the moves. The other move that I thought, and I've mentioned this recently in terms of realistic targets and kind of the logic behind what I think they should do for the trading deadline, and it's getting more versatile, more athletic, and bringing in switch hitters and stuff. Well, one of the moves that I thought they could have made was bringing in Carlos Santana, who's now with the Kansas City Royals. He was with the Indians. He's a switch hitter. Okay, he's got a productive bat. He plays multiple positions. But one of the things, he has an intangible that the Yankees happen to be the worst in baseball at. Okay, and that's hitting with 2 strikes. The Yankees are the worst team with 2 strikes right now, and they've been the worst in their history as well. Either called third strikes, looking at balls right down the middle, or swinging at pitches way all over the place and way out of the zone. They're the worst at that right now. And Carlos Santana is one of the top 20 two-strike hitters in all of baseball. So he would have represented an upgrade, and I think he's the guy that could have been a streak stopper and stuff like that, a slump stopper. And again, not a sexy choice, but not every move the Yankees make has to be a sexy choice. It's guys like this that can make a significant impact. When you look at some of the best Yankee teams, some of their gap between the very top and player 1 and player 25 on the roster was not that big. Now, the gap between their very best players and their complementary role players is pretty significant. And when you look back and you have guys like, whether it be Chuck Knobloch, Scott Brocious, Paul O'Neill, Tina Martinez, again, none of them were massive superstars, but they were productive players on a regular basis. They stayed healthy almost all the time, consistent. Gamers, okay? They played small ball, they bunted, they did the things that a lot of the Yankees now don't do. And they also were much better with 2 strikes. So I wanted to point that out because these are some of the types of moves that the Yankees could be making that I think could make them a lot better team. And if they're going to compete against teams like the Blue Jays and the Red Sox and the Rays, just in their division alone, never mind the Dodgers and the Padres and some of those teams, they have to become more versatile. They have to become more athletic. Those teams do all the stuff. Drive runs over, steal bases, bunt here. They do everything, a lot of things that the Yankees don't do. And the Yankees have a tendency sometimes to rely on the 3-run home run, the grand slam to tie the game, and it hardly ever happens. It's nice to see it when it does, but that's a recipe for disaster. So, and that's why, I mentioned a lot of guys recently in my prime trade targets for them. Ketel Marte, Brian Reynolds, guys like that are versatile switch hitters. They're young. They play multiple positions. Again, they give Cashman and Boone flexibility to create, different rosters and different lineups. Excuse me. And no matter who's pitching, because of their versatility. Plus, they have multiple years of control. And now the problem, because the Yankees generally don't go for guys like I mentioned with Carlos Santana and Yadier Molina, who they could have gotten just for cash. Now they're going to have to pay cash and give up prospects or major league capital to get these guys in trades, which is why I think being much more proactive and more aggressive earlier on instead of waiting methodically until the end of the deadline, which is what Cashman usually does, would be a much better strategy. I would be making incremental moves right now because the AL East is much stronger than a lot of us thought it was going to be this year, and I don't see, the way that things are heading, I don't see the Red Sox getting worse, the Rays getting worse, and the Blue Jays getting worse. I'm sorry, I just don't. And, and they're going to make moves to get better. And, there's no clear dominant team right now in the American League. The White Sox are really good, and I've said that from early on, and they're going to make moves. And the A's are really good. They're probably going to make moves too. So this is the time, I think, for the Yankees to kind of be proactive and bring in more just consistent productivity guys. Guys that are under the radar, that just do the routine plays, that do all the things well, instead of waiting for a Roy Hobbs moment from the natural. We can't do that. It's not the way the game is played today. So I just wanted to go over this and kind of have some perspective, and it might be a lesson learned. And a lot of other folks that I talk to that have YouTube channels as well kind of feel the same way. If you notice, we kind of recommend the same block of guys because we're all noticing the patterns, particularly Yankee fans, that the Yankees are following and the deficiencies that they're, suffering and even things that they might be stubborn and ignoring that other teams are not. A lot of us notice the same things because we're passionate Yankee fans. So these things to me are important issues and important things for the Yankees to address, which again could make them a much better team, but that remains to be seen as to whether they're going to do that or not. Let me know what you think, of this. I really want to have a dialogue, and because a lot of frustrated Yankee fans who just want, everybody gone, and I get the frustration, I get it. I mean, Marcus Thames might be the first to go if anybody goes. So, but we'll see. He's not up at the plate batting for these people. So, and before he came here, these guys, Sanchez still struggled, and some of these other guys struggle. I mean, Aaron Judge has the major league record for strikeouts in a season. So, these things do exist. So, and give me your feedback either way. And if you enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. And, just want to continue growing this channel. So I appreciate your support either way. I'm going to continue doing my Yankee postgame recaps, and I'm also going to be doing my my next video, I'm going to be talking about Matt Boyd, the left-handed ace for the Detroit Tigers, and the more likely landing spots for him at the trading deadline. So be on the lookout for those videos, and thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.